Hey guys, it's Mark from Migraine Professional. I used to suffer from migraines until I figured out how to beat them, and I've been migraine free for 5 years now, and I teach others how to do the same. And today we are talking about the 10 most common food triggers for migraines and headaches. Now, before we get started, we want to kind of understand what food triggers are, if we should pay attention to them, and what we should do about knowing what our food triggers are. So we really have to understand that if a food is becoming sensitive, if we're getting multiple foods that are becoming sensitive, there's a reason for that. There's a reason why that's happening. So in migraine and headache sufferers, we always want to make sure that we are ruling out histamines and tyramines as a cause of the migraines and headaches, as well as stimulants. We want to make sure we rule those out because those are kind of different causes. But most foods, if we're starting to develop multiple food sensitivities, that's pointing to that there's something going wrong with our gut. So we want to make sure we heal the gut, we address the gut, we heal any leaky gut, dysbiosis, parasites, SIBO, SIFO, all these different things that will sort of add a lot of stress. And whenever we eat, we will either make the situation worse or we can make the situation better with the right diet. So we really want to kind of understand what's going on and heal the root cause as opposed to just taking out foods. Because if we just keep taking out foods, eventually we're not going to have anything. Especially if we have leaky gut, if we completely change our diet, we're eating completely new foods. In 6 months, those foods will be sensitive again if we still have the leaky gut. So we want to make sure that we're healing the cause. And so if you want more information on foods and food triggers, get the food triggers guide, which I'll link to in the description. But first we want to understand personal allergens. So personal allergens, those are the ones that are specific to you. You have them, other people don't. Other people have them that you don't. So they're individual to what you have built up a tolerance to and a sensitivity to. So, and they're different for everyone. So often people love to follow migraine food lists. And this is just incredibly general, and it makes you take out a bunch of foods, and it doesn't really help anyone. It doesn't help anyone understand what's going on. So you really want to be careful with those lists. Next thing is inflammatory foods. So there are many foods, especially in the last 50 years, many foods that have become very, very packaged, processed, full of additives and refined, and they have become inflammatory to the body. So their net gain is inflammatory, as opposed to if you're eating some wild meat. The net gain off that wild meat is very anti-inflammatory. It's very supportive for your physiology. So you always want to make sure that you're avoiding inflammatory foods wherever possible. Inflammatory foods, the most common ones are processed and packaged, cheap oils like vegetable oil, canola oil, things like that. Any kind of trans fats. You want to be careful with all kinds of additives and chemicals and things like that. And then we hit our most common food triggers. So this is based on a couple of different studies that have been done with migraine headache sufferers and their sensitivities to different foods. But what you'll notice is that the same foods that migraine headache sufferers are sensitive to, many different chronic disease sufferers will be sensitive to. And that's because these foods are eaten the most often, and if you have leaky gut, if you're eating a food very often, there's a very high chance that will become a sensitive food for you. If your physiology is compromised, then the foods can become sensitive. Your immune cells will find the food will get through your leaky gut into your body. The immune cells will find that food, and then it'll start developing antibodies against that food. You'll develop a sensitivity. So wheat, wheat, one of the most common, it's a commodity, it's a staple food. Same with orange. Oranges, a lot of different things. Citruses, specifically, migraine and headache sufferers have some problems with citruses. You really want to be careful with eggs. Everyone loves to eat eggs in the morning, but it's one of the more sensitive foods, so you want to be careful with eating it too often, or you'll get sensitized to it. Again, beef. Beef might not necessarily be bad, same with the eggs, but you want to be careful how often you eat it and the quality. So you want to make sure that you're staying away from any conventionally raised beef or eggs. You want to make sure you get grass-fed, pastured, wild, whatever you can get that's kind of a better quality, just not conventionally raised. It's garbage, it's full of poison, and you shouldn't be buying it anyway. And then of course we got chocolate. Chocolate's a stimulant. It's a very sensitive food. You want to be careful with it. And coffee, again, America's most favorite drug is coffee. So you want to be careful because it's eaten so often. It's also a stimulant, and it's tough on the body. You want to be careful. And then yeast. Again, yeast, you're looking at like baked products, and you want to be careful with baked products. First of all, a lot of them are processed and full of preservatives, but then again, they have yeast, and so you want to make sure that you check yourself if you have any yeast problems. If you have systemic yeast, you want to rule that out. And then of course we got milk. Milk, again, another staple food. As you start to kind of notice, like these are all staple foods, and they've been found to be the most commonly sensitive. So you want to be careful. And it's fairly easy to remove all of these. I mean, there's no reason you can't remove all of them. Again, sugar just in general. Stripped out white sugar has no nutrition in it. It is just pure glucose, pure calories, and you want to make sure that you're eating enough nutrients to help use those calories, because calories can't be used without nutrition. And then corn, of course, corn, it's tough to digest, it's very modified, it's very sprayed, and it's in basically everything. So again, it's very common to see how these are all kind of very common foods. They're very common in the diet, and if you have leaky gut or some kind of digestive issues, these will show up. And then whatever you switch your diet to, they'll eventually show up if you're eating it often enough and your physiology is compromised. So you always want to make sure that you're kind of dealing with these, getting rid of them, and you're healing your gut. You're addressing the root cause. You're healing the gut. You're healing your hormones. You're healing your adrenals. And if you want more information, go to the Food Triggers Guide. I'm going to link to it in the description, and let me know in the description below what food or foods have you found that you're the most sensitive to? What are your personal allergens? Thanks. Hey, it's Mark from migraineprofessional.com. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe in the bottom left corner, and if you want to learn more about migraines and headaches than you've ever known before, and understand what causes them, what creates them, and what you can do about them, make sure to go to migraineprofessional.com. Thanks.